Ladies and gentlemen, students, I present to you the class of 1988. Good morning. Members of the school committee, guests, invited guests, faculty, students, parents, members of the class of 1988, welcome to the Class Day ceremony. I'm Tom Casey. I'm the principal of Athol High School. The first thing I'd like to do this morning is have the assembly please applaud and salute the class of 1988. I'd like to introduce at this time the president of the class of 1988, Derek Segan. Derek.
On behalf of the class of 1988, I would like to welcome everyone to today's Class Day activities, and I hope you enjoy the program. Thank you.
To read the class history, I'd like to introduce Shannon Bowtell and Kimberly Ann Brooks, Secretary and Treasurer of the class, respectively.
What? I Remember entering AHS as skittish young freshmen?
Idolizing the class of 1985.
Remember being too smart for the elevator story?
Remember being too afraid to ask questions about anything.
Remember the freshman welcome dance?
Remember Kim as president.
Remember Mr. Strong, who hated freshmen so dearly?
Our freshman float.
Our freshman hall?
Them both being pretty lame.
Remember realizing that coming in second would become the story of our lives?
Remember Kirsten and Jerry as homecoming king and queen.
Remember Jerry and Paul getting pulled out of our first class meeting?
Remember the football team going to the Super Bowl.
Remember when Kirsten's mother showed up at Mike Orell's party?
Remember taking algebra for the first time.
Remember wondering why anyone would ever want to add x plus y?
Remember having a freshman, Renee, win international night.
Remember the teachers complaining that there are now 3 Klukies at AHS at the same time?
Remember when Aaron Shades O'Connor first moved to Athol.
Remember Amy's obsession with Tommy?
Remember Jan and Nugget.
Remember Mr. Daly and world history, Addis Ababa and Djibouti?
Remember walking everywhere we wanted to go.
Remember Scott's 5 to 9ers?
Remember the seniors beating us up during track.
Remember getting trampled because he didn't know what the word track meant?
Remember John being a slave.
Remember beating the seniors in Super Day softball?
Remember coming in second in Super Days.
Remember not wanting to be freshmen anymore?
Remember Jan's end of school party.
Daryl's end of school party?
The broken pool table.
And having to pay for it?
Sophomore year. Remember moving up in the world.
Remember Jen as president?
Remember having Mr. Sullivan for English.
Remember building a Spirit Week float at Jen's house?
Remember Jan, Sumo, Daryl, and Scott cutting curfew.
Remember Mr. Ferrari hunting for football players?
Remember them trying to hide. Jan under the tarp, Sumo in the pine trees, Scott in the woods, and Daryl who knows where.
Remember them getting caught and not knowing how?
Then having to mow Mr. Ferrari's lawn.
Remember Pat and Michelle as homecoming king and queen?
Remember Amy dressing as Dolly Parton and not having trouble filling the part.
Remember our sophomore beach party hall?
The Turkey Day Miracle.
Remember Paula as the ultimate cheerleader?
Remember Jamie falling down the stairs and dropping all the buttons.
Remember Mr. Ronco's A-period English class in Clucka?
Remember the cabin.
Remember Daryl running through the woods?
Remember trying to find Brian.
Remember not finding him and leaving anyway?
Remember when Jonna and Mike weren't going out.
Remember the Wall of Fame?
Remember sitting in a pile of wet leaves at the bottom of a hill.
Remember walking in the snow at the golf course?
Remember the Riverbend Street woods.
Remember when Paul fell off the back of the moped?
Remember when Bye Bye Birdie and all the fun we had.
Remember the dead performance of Shannon as Samantha?
Remember when Booger hit a mailbox on his bike.
Remember Sumo running over his head afterwards?
Remember Goldie Golding.
Remember Goldie's house after the basketball games?
Remember Scott jumping on Tammy while playing man overboard in gym class.
Remember the school being a little quieter now that there were only 2 kooky girls left?
Remember the Fat A alert.
Remember biology and dissecting crabs and grasshoppers?
Remember Mrs. Elliott's F-period general math class.
Remember when Sumo sprained his ankle throwing the discus?
Remember our sophomore dinner dance and the party at Susie's afterwards.
Remember our awesome Super Bowl shuffle and it being sabotaged by a certain class notorious for cheating?
Remember being anxious to be juniors one more step up.
Junior year. Remember beginning a whole new year at AHS?
Remember Chris as president.
Remember the teachers celebrating that Misty was gone and that there was only one Kluky mouth left at the high school?
Remember the teachers also realizing John would be around for 2 more years?
Remember Mr. Deegan wanting our sign at Spirit Week?
Him getting it?
Remember someone lighting a firecracker off in the bleachers?
Mr. Deegan hunting down the culprit?
Remember winning the Hall and Float competition and finally proving ourselves to the other classes?
Remember our winning hall being dive-bombed by a pineapple courtesy of the senior safari above us?
Remember the fabulous float with Lisa, the sexy ringmaster, and Kirsten, the ferocious panther? Remember Shannon and Mike as homecoming king and queen?
Remember the seniors crying after losing Spirit Week?
Remember Kevin putting buck lore in Mr. Murphy's ventilator and 3 classrooms had to be relocated?
Remember the awesome athletic teams?
Remember the football team?
Remember the woos,
The Woo-mobile?
the anti-woos, the woo supporters, and the gleets?
Remember the Woos getting busted while painting the bridge?
Remember Marty trying to drive away from the scene of the crime, but then remembering he didn't have a license?
Remember blowing up test tubes in all science classes?
Mr. Murphy's field trips?
Jan accusing Sumo of killing his cat and Sumo swearing he didn't?
Remember taking Algebra 2 and still not knowing what X and Y were?
Remember U.S. history?
Remember Kevin driving his car into a lake?
Remember when Sue ran over the gas station attendant?
Remember sweatpants, shorts, tank tops are not permissible at Athol High?
Remember Scott Hill and Kim Frazier being the newest addition to our school?
Remember getting Dana too?
Remember when a piece of sheet metal hit Mr. Linker on the head?
Remember Hello Dolly?
Remember taking driving lessons from Mary?
Remember finally getting our licenses?
Remember Christy getting lockjaw?
Remember halfway through the year when Mr. Russell announced the grand opening of the new underclassmen parking lot?
Remember the string of pajama parties?
Remember the movies that were watched?
Remember Bigor showing off his stereo?
Remember Wicked Wanda on a Honda?
Remember Mr. Williams thinking he was cool because he was vice principal?
Remember Mr. Smith?
Remember Mr. Martin?
Remember Patrick leaving?
Remember Jan's cousin Matt?
Remember full day finals?
Remember Model UN legalizing automated prostitution throughout the world and making it a safer place?
Remember the junior prom?
Remember at the end Mrs. Alia saying, girls pick up 2 chairs, guys grab a table and carry them to the calf?
Remember not doing it?
Remember Susie dumping punch on Mark's tux?
Remember Scott and Jen as king and queen?
Scott's masterpiece plantation?
Remember walking over to the senior section at Class Day and spelling juniors?
Remember being told that we were not seniors until September?
Remember not getting junior privileges?
Remember being excited about our approaching senior year and knowing that it would be the best year of our lives?
Senior year. Remember realizing our senior year was finally here?
Remember thinking we were cool because we were seniors?
Remember Sumo as president?
Remember Casey at bat?
Remember throwing our first senior party?
Remember our senior hall being the best in the history of AHS?
Remember putting so much into the hall that our float was the worst in the history of AHS?
Remember the theme being World Peace Party and Lance bringing a machine gun?
Remember saying we don't need the money anyway?
Remember Amy Dowdy's striptease during the obstacle course?
Remember Abby and Eric Greenwell as homecoming king and queen?
Remember having fun during Spirit Week even though we didn't win?
Remember the hey guys, there's no teacher in here food fight?
Remember joining the yearbook staff?
Remember Heather's editor, Mr. Sullivan, and Mrs. McClure's advisors?
Remember catching senioritis by November?
Remember taking the juniors' benches up to the senior wall and securing them to ensure their safety?
Remember watching Mr. Williams' futile attempts to get them undone?
Remember getting the juniors kicked out of the senior parking lot?
Remember towing the cars without a truck when they refused to obey the rules?
Remember Heather Sayer calling the towers a bunch of little towers, a bunch of little...
Member Booger's leg tackles.
Remember torpedoes and half dollars?
Remember reviving the tradition of an early yearbook.
Remember Mr. Sullivan thinking humanities was our only class?
Remember not learning anything in humanities.
Remember Emily's bumper?
Remember our cars, Jan's van, Daryl's Olive, Living Goods Olds, Jonah's Diesel, Heather's Dart, Pam's Hornet, Paul's Camaro, Scott's Corolla, Bob's ever-changing Volkswagen, Sumo's T-Bird, Brown's Phoenix, and to all the other faithful autos, thank you.
Remember the demise of the Olive and the rise of the Pimento?
Remember Jen and Jay finally breaking things off and her moving on to bigger and better things.
Remember Lance Romance?
Remember Heather's camp,
Tully Rec?
Brown's plan book.
Student of the Week?
Remember the family.
Remember the in-laws?
Remember Raina's skirts.
Remember the reformed Raina?
Remember playing Pictionary at Trent's.
Remember Pam's divorce and re-entry into the class of 1988?
Remember Aaron's nose ring.
Remember Mr. Deegan's last words, failure to stay for detention will result in a loss of privileges for 1 week?
Remember getting watered down senior privileges.
Remember being the last class to get senior privileges?
Remember when parents all across Athol heard on the scanner, Begors again.
Remember Wednesday night dart parties?
Remember the song, You Shook Me All Night Long.
Remember ringing in the holidays with Halloween at Brown's, Thanksgiving at Heather's, New Year's Eve at Jan's, and Valentine's Day at Brown's again?
Remember hairy coconuts on the bulletin board.
Remember the girl in love with her F-period psych teacher?
Remember still not knowing what X and Y are and beginning not to care.
Remember planning at a party at someone else's camp without her knowing?
Remember 3 cruisers and 2 fire trucks.
Remember Mr. Deegan and apple pie?
Remember God Bless America.
Remember family living class and the wedding?
Remember Dana killing a baby Egbert.
Remember for all 20 that attended the senior dance?
Remember wondering how long Heather's car was going to sleep in the school parking lot.
Remember when a bus hit Sumo's car?
Remember Shannon S. begging Mrs. Genovese to tell a story.
Remember the cruise?
Remember reggae on the Lido deck.
Hector and Elmer?
Remember Scott Hill winning everything but the captain's shirt in the casino.
Remember the parting of the Red Sea?
Remember the sunburns.
Remember the wheelchair races?
Remember Jan's mishap with toothpaste.
Remember Bob's Roxanne?
Remember Sumo and Booger's scorpions and Kim Elkland's new phobia.
Remember getting our hair braided?
Remember not sleeping for 4 days.
Remember not being able to paint the roof right?
Remember spelling struck, stuck.
Remember spelling always being the major weakness in our class?
Remember Super Days being more than an hour long.
Remember winning almost everything for Super Day competitions, but still losing to the sophomores by 1 point?
Remember winning our senior lip sync with We Go Together.
Remember the trip to Disney World?
Remember the senior prom.
Remember wondering about Beth's answer to Trent's question in humanities?
Remember getting ready to actually graduate
Remember realizing that this is really the end?
and wishing it didn't have to be.
You heard throughout the class history the references to, I think, Mrs. Elliott and Mr. Deegan. As the class advisors, I now introduce those infamous people to read the class will.
There's obviously a little difference in height here, so purpose of removing them. The class will of 1988. Lisa Elliott leaves her mother, Gaminsky, a hot pink running suit with Snoopy sneakers, and AHS still weighing 88. Mike Orell leaves Amy Putnam one banana, Mr. Nell one schematic to look at, Mr. Deegan truth, justice, and the American way. And he also leaves Miss Genevieve to find a shoulder to sleep on. Stephanie Batchelder, she leaves Mrs. Elliott a dark snow cloud, Mr. Strong a new pair of pants to rip, Mr. Russell a permanent smile, Mr. Harris a bigger chorus, Casey Gale a long-lasting relationship, and the rest of my friends the best of luck at AHS. Eric Banks leaves the twins and most of the rest of the freshman class 3 more years at AHS. Mrs. Gaminsky, 2 matching Siemens lamps, a new nickname, a new magic marker, and Mr. Gracious, another rowdy beat period and a dry comb. Mr. Nelson, another disintegrating graphic communications crew.
Marty Barkham leaves Mr. Strong wondering if he will ever play golf again, barely graduating in a few good patches in the parking lot. J.C. Barrett leaves Mr. Semprini with a hairpiece and many successful labs. Paul Batutis leaves the school happily. His brother Pete, 1 more joyful year with Mr. Casey as principal, and Mr. Casey a handbook on how the school should be run. Michael Begor leaves Mr. Gracious with a pork chop and a case of beer, and Mr. Ferrari a Whopper. Donna Bazzaio leaves AHS happy.
Tammy Bishop leaves Keith someone else to hit and to be cruel to, Mr. Sullivan a batch of Jude's cookies, a copy of Pumpkinhead, someone to work the slide projector and organize the slides, in the hallways, silent, lacking the noisy keychains that annoy people. Susan Black leaves Mrs. Genevieve's a story and smile, Mr. Deegan one of his fun flowcharts, Mrs. Southwick many mispronounced words, Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Ronco a great deal of appreciation for all that they have taught me, and her brother Jason an unforgettable senior year. Mike Blanchard leaves Jack, Herb, Claudia, Conrad, Jesse, Orrin, and Leon with no hope of finding another Clarence. Leaves Mrs. T with a bag of sugar to eat, Mr. Casey with a tradition, and Mr. Deegan with an apple pie and American flag. Tammy Blanchard leaves Teresa, Karen, Crystal, Carrie, Corey, and Jill to make AHS proud of its cheerleaders. Mrs. T, someone else to call little one, and her brother Todd, 2 more great years at AHS.
Trent Blanchard leaves Wendy T a butcher's knife and toilet paper. Kevin 2 more exciting years with a human freckle. Bev a bag of popcorn. Anne a skunk, and Anne Marie a wonderful life. Jeff Boudreau leaves Mr. Gracious a hairpiece to use when he loses his hair due to grease treatment. And a special group of sophomores and 1 very special freshman good luck in their remaining years at AHS. Maria Boudreau leaves Mrs. Bassett a case of M&Ms, and Mrs. Tiroli a helicopter and a pair of legs. Shannon Bautel leaves Mrs. Bassett a pack of gum. Mrs. Tiroli, another year with Navin and Jody. Mr. Sullivan, a pair of fast break underwear. And her thanks to all teachers who helped her out during her 4 years at AHS.
Denise Bren leaves the nickname Wicked Wanda to anyone who wants it. Leaves Mr. Deegan with a peace of mind, I'm finally out of his class, and a certain junior free coupons for tanning. Kim Brooks leaves Mr. Sullivan a pair of fast break underwear in Humanities Forever. Locker 130 to anyone who wants it. Kirsten, Nick, and Michelle at Bruce's, and 2 more years at AHS next year's yearbook staff, laughing and everybody left at AHS happy years and her thanks for all the memories. Jim Brown leaves the core of next year's yearbook to whomever is foolish enough to take it, and the class of '88 with many memories of being together for a great senior year that we'll never forget. Cheryl Case leaves Paula a hot oil treatment, Mrs. Bassett a truckload of bubble gum, a make love not war sign, Mrs. Robinson wondering if Hemingway has had tendencies and that certain junior demerits for her personality. Jennifer Chi leaves still being Amy's best friend, Chris, Johnny, and Michael, the best brothers anyone could have, a great high school education. My mom and dad, thank you, and Greg, my love.
Holly Charquette leaves her sister Lori 2 more years at AHS. Mrs. Davidson, another office aide. Mrs. Young, someone else to go shopping with. Mrs. Coburn, a hug. Mrs. Elliott, someone else to call student. And finally leaves knowing she did the best she could do. Mary Clark leaves Jason, Lisa, Jim, Eugene, a great senior year and senior privileges. And Mrs. Coburn, without hearing, what can I do for a lesson? Kelly Clifford leaves Mr. Pandicio a box of passion scars. Abby, her best wishes. Kiki, nobody to pull her hair. And Brother Aaron, a great 4 years at AHS. John Kluke leaves Athol High School with no more Klukies for a while. Less frustration on the teachers. Mrs. Elliott still wondering about Nugget. And Wendy with a W with 3 more great years at AHS. Mike Costa leaves Wayne 1 more year of AHS and Donner 2 more years of AHS.
Derek Segan leaves an in-law having 6 lockers, no parking permit, no book bill for some lost books, and basically speaking, having the front office in the palm of his hand. Pam Dooley leaves Jen Carollo lots of great memories and more fun to come. A great senior year, and Miss Cunningham a smile that will always last. Amy Dowdy leaves Mrs. Katniss a broken canoe paddle and a bucket of muck. Mr. Sullivan a copy of Schubert's Fifth and No Longer Arms. Mr. Ronco, bronzed copy of The Lords of the Files. Mrs. Southwick a new granule, a step ladder. Sorry. Mrs. Elliott an updated edition of LRS. Mrs. Pine, some ice, a beautiful track season, a new Ernie, and a new Sprinter for 100. George, 1 more wonderful year at AHS, and Bessie to putter around in, and all my teachers' undying respect. Jerry Dugay leaves Mrs. Elliott a dog leash and a box of Frosted Flakes. Mr. Gracious a rifle with a pork chop. Sumo 1 last big pork chop. Wishing Libet luck in her last 3 years in AHS, and Mr. Strong, nothing. Nick Clementi leaves Mr. Ferrari 30 pounds of lobster, Mr. Ronco a lifetime supply of Prove stamps, and my brother 4 years at AHS. Celia Florian leaves JH many happy 4th of July, TB many memories, and BK and TL 1 more year at AHS.
Chris Fowler leaves Mr. Jolly a thesaurus so he won't be vague, confused, and lacking detail. Mr. Harris and any senior band member who wants it, the band presidency. Mr. J. Sullivan, a toupee and a diet that works. Mr. C. Sullivan, the bench. Mr. Ferrari, my Final Four Kansas shirt. And Mr. McDonald, the shot put and discus to anyone who can throw it farther than he can. Kim Frazier leaves Kathy Bartlett a new red jumpsuit. Joe Ellen and Kathy 2 more years at AHS. Erin O, a new earring for her nose. And last but not least, Mr. Deegan, an American flag to pledge. Kevin Gabrinas leaves Mr. Jolly with someone else to blame for doing burnouts out back. Emily Gates leaves Bob someone else to get caught with. Kim and Joe Ellen a better camping trip. Mr. Pandicio someone else to pick on. Aaron someone else to hit walls with. And Tommy 4 years at AHS. Renee Giroux leaves Mrs. McClure a big thanks. AHS happily. And Guys in My Locker to Julie.
Pam Graham leaves Corey Smith a case of SWBC, a bottle of Anacin 3, and a can of spray paint. Eric Greenwell leaves Mr. Toroli his accent, his luck to future exchange students, John Chase and certain pieces of literature, and his respect to all the faculty. Laura Gilmet leaves Mr. Ferrari to find someone else to entertain his chemistry class and someone else to call Betty White. Jason a Super Ball, Mark someone else to sit with on the bus, and best wishes to the class of '88. Jim Hamlet leaves Mr. Semprini with a wet physics book. Arthur Hatch leaves Mr. Russell a few patches in the parking lot and the remaining classes with no senior privileges. Scott Hill leaves Jim Nabin his seat at the blackjack tables, tips on beating Bill at jacks, or better yet, tips to win, and $200 to pay for a chipped window, and good luck to Callie, and have a great senior year. Lee Human leaves Mr. Ferrari 30 pounds of lobster, the morning crew, a dozen jelly sticks, a dozen Bavarian cream, and a few Christmas jimmies, and a coffee with cream and sugar. Jason Hunter, Chris Chi, Rob North, and Mike Domina, the one and only Leonore. Jane LaChance, some frozen microwave entrees, and leaves AHS starting all over again as freshman at UMass.
Jim Hunter leaves Jason, Chris, Derek, Tony, and the rest of Moan Jim Fan Club with a tradition of the Moan and another year at Athol High. Mr. Perkins and Shane with no worries if I took the wrong path and with a flex. Mrs. Pine without an assistant girls cross-country coach. Mr. Ronco, 10,000 BBs in the leg without knowing what they mean. Locker number 286 to some luckless freshman soul. And Athol High with some memories of crazy times heading toward the frontier in search of adventure. Colleen Jackson leaves cheerleading forever. Mr. Ferrari a smile. Mrs. Robinson and Elmer Fudd, and wondering why a certain junior never got her crown and sash. Eric Jesenowski leaves his brother 4 years of Athol High School.
Jennifer Jones leaves Connie an application to SLU, if it's okay with you, Bill. Mr. Williams, someone else to slam in freshman civics, and Diane, 3 years of happiness at AHS. Paula Bree leaves Crystal 2 more years, Mindy 3 more years, Jessica all the luck and happiness in her senior year. Mrs. Pine a dreaded phone call, and most of all, won't leave the lady he loves. Scott LaChance leaves Mr. Nelson 400 unfinished combination circuits, Mark a case of soap and chicken, tender for Homer. Okay. Chris someone else to stab someone else, to imitate the fly, a pack of gum to all those who chew it, Michelle someone else to bug in word processing, and one awesome party at Mike's with the family. Tim LaRoche leaves Mr. Pine a lock of hair for a lock of mustache. Mr. Harris a folder of unpracticed sheet music, and Mike Lehman a metronome. Marsha Lagasse leaves Mr. Deegan a new set of lingerie. Mr. Pine a bag full of ties. Mr. Jolly a Twinkie, and Lincoln, Doug, Fabi, and Jason no one to sit with at lunch. Christy Lewis leaves Mr. Strong my southern accent.
Kevin Linker leaves Mr. Russell a half bottle of Indian buck lure. Heather 1 more year at AHS. Dad a computer disk with Mickey Mouse on it, John's cow flour, a bag of hay, Mr. Strong an autographed picture of Jack Nicholson, and Herb, Clarence, Dick, and Orrin, someone else to call Jack. Joe Losh leaves Mrs. T all his unfinished junior year accounting projects, Mr. Ferrari a lot of bad jokes, and Mr. Deegan all the chalk he could never find. Lisa Mabey leaves Mr. Sullivan with a whole closet full of sticks. Kiki McDonald leaves Mrs. Bassett 3 packs of M&Ms, Kelly a book of Connect the Dots so she will stop connecting the freckles on her arm, Becky a right-handed fry scope, Mrs. T with no one to call her ugly, Mr. Padone with a new sweater, and her father with one more rugrat at home. Beth Meyer leaves Mr. Sullivan a book of instructions on how to use the slide projector, Heather her own jumper cables, Trent gift certificates for Chinese food, and Heidi Nelson without a ride to school.
Lance Mallett leaves whatever is left to his Dodge Charger to whomever wants it. His sister Andre with 3 more fun-filled years at AHS. Bill Malloy leaves the school the promise that public displays of affection will be allowed in AHS, and Mr. Harris an athletic supporter. Lisa Matthews leaves John F. a dime for phone call, Sarah her little blue piece of paper from geometry class, Kevin a lifelong supply of certs, John his $5.08, and Mr. Harris the $2 she owes him from February. Commander Russell her emotional roller coaster, and Mike and Pete 1 more year to go. Good luck in everything you do. Lisa McCarthy leaves Mrs. Elliott a banana, Christy Geyer 1 more year at AHS, Greg White 2 more years, Wayne Curie 3 more years, and AHS blackmail picture of Mrs. Elliott. Lynn Matevia leaves Mark a fan and something to hang on his moose head, Sean and Doug fire extinguisher, and Floyd a book on sign language. Kirsten Miller leaves Mrs. Genovese another trip to the Bahamas and her brother 3 more years at AHS. Dan Muzzy leaves Ben Mildred to take over as the bearded senior. Mr. Pine, all the pens, gum, and cough drops he stole a period of Mr. Deegan. Liberty, justice, and the American way. I'm sorry.
Heather Nelson leaves Mr. Sullivan and Mrs. McClure a full supply of 3R carbons and grease pencils, Mr. Strong owing her many points, Mrs. Genovese a date for pizza after midterms, Corey and Amy to take care of the overflow, Mrs. Davidson a bowl of chicken noodle soup, and Heidi an eventful 3 years at AHS. Nathan Nasrallah leaves Mr. Deegan someone else to bore to death in chemistry, and a surprise package for the Guess What's in the Bag game. To anyone who wants it, he leaves a dashiki shirt, a beat-up skateboard, locker 385 to anyone who wants them. Heather, a great senior year. Christine, Grace, Serene, Tammy, and the rest of the Orange crowd, good time, fond memories, and another party. And Mr. Ronco, a BB in the leg for failing 1 first term. John North leaves Mark Richardson a 12-pack of chicken tenders for his best friend Homer. Jeff Mativier a new window and a deck of cards. And Scott Hill and Booger a bottle of Solacane for their tongues.
Erin O'Connor leaves Kim a curl, Emily a can of spray paint, Mel a bottle of vitamins, Amy a unicorn, Brown a canceled zipper, Miss Hawes gossip, Mrs. Southwick a black eye, Mr. Russell a manual on how to dress in the 80s, and everyone with how the question, haven't you ever seen a white girl with braces before? Sorry, it says braces. Okay. Scott Peterson leaves Mr. Ferrari a book of Burger King gift certificates for his tune on his fiddle and a long wait for another Peterson to mow his lawn. Lisa Polana leaves Kelly and Mike a lifetime of free and safe condo living, the potato tree, and a free year of marriage counseling. Randy, a true friendship that will never be forgotten. Josiah and Ezekiel, many years of cheap bargain shopping, and Wendy, the top of the 10 pro and con list of men. Melanie Porter leaves Jen Wheeler the fire arrow to break down on her in everlasting friendship. Jason Ruddle to take care of Jen while Mel is not around. Tina 2 more years at Athol High School without Randy. Jen and Jay a seat at the lake, and Tammy Shaw, Babe Ruth. Paula Polinsky leaves Mrs. Elliott 2 Seaman lamps, Mr. Gracious, Cowjoy rides, Mrs. Bassett a year's worth of unfinished filing, Cram and Heatherson and TC and TS share, the Duck and Jenner a one-way ticket to Jamaica. Thank you. It's the distance between the microphone, me, and the reading here. I'm sorry.
Stephen Price leaves Mrs. Elliott a pair of elevator shoes and a prison shirt. Amy Putnam leaves the following people the following messages. Mrs. Elliott Gaminsky, keep the bun book for your own pleasure. All members of the faculty, may you bask in the silence after my departure. And Richie, I wish you the best in everything you do. Wanda Rathburn leaves the class of '89 a great time in the Bahamas. Bob Ray leaves Miss Heyer a pack of index cards, and Vicky 3 more years of good luck. Ed Ricard leaves Tiny a lifetime membership to the weight loss clinic. Mr. Casey a book on how to be a principal. Mr. Russell 20 more excused absent notes to enjoy reading. Mr. Linka someone else to take inventory, and Herb some wet wipes for Homer's accidents.
Mark Richardson leaves Q-Tip a lifetime membership to the Hair Club for Men. Kieran a jar of Skippy peanut butter. John North a case of chicken tenders so he can feed them to the Homer while he is in the Marines. Lisa 1 more year at AHS. Dan, I don't know how many years until graduation. Mr. Linker, someone else to call Chippy. Link, a video of Action Jackson. And Todd, a large bag of popcorn. Bobby Riddell leaves Mr. Strong with nobody to call Richard. Brian Roberts leaves Mrs. Pine some baby ducks. Mrs. Robinson a completed novel. Miss Hawes a locker full of brainstorms, and all of his teachers' fond memories. Red Robichaud leaves his cousin Stephanie 3 more years at good old AHS. The nickname Baseball and Buzzy to any poor unfortunate incoming freshman who doesn't deserve them. Mr. Sullivan, someone else to grow out of the name Runt, and AHS with memories, both good and bad, while looking forward to seeing all again at our 5th.
Christy Sabin leaves Tony with 1 more year at AHS. Derek and Abby with memories of a great summer. Lisa, Renee, and Jimmy to remember the old days, and Denise and Renee to remember Dave's house. Dana Sandover leaves his darling little sister Krista 1 more year. Mr. Russell a bottle of aspirin for all the headaches he's caused. Shannon Shadis all his love and wishes her well. And the school 1 final message: stay alive, don't drink and drive. Eric Sawin leaves Jen Wheeler $1.89 and Athol High happily. Randy Schmidt leaves Mr. Gracious more cow joy rides and Paula some dread looks. Locks. Carol Seco leaves Mrs. Elliott with fond memories of Chuck, her Fraggies, and other McDonald toys, and 14 cans of tuna. Linda, a yellow Porsche with a broken mirror. Mr. Russell, 4 years of her sister, and any memories of Tom.
Keith Shackett leaves Chris a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit sign, Sue an attitude, Amy, I'm Amy, and a record of Schubert's greatest hits, Tammy a new keychain, Jim a new axle, and Chris Erickson Joey. Shannon Chadis leaves Mrs. Bassett a pack of gum, Mrs. Tiroli a package of stickers, Ms. Hawes a Shannon project, Mr. Ronco someone else to go first to teach a short story, Mrs. Genevieve and Mr. Pine a wonderful life, and a lot of thanks to AHS. Charles Shemchuk leaves Mrs. Elliott a bottle of hair dye and a stepping stool so that she can reach to the chalkboard. Gee, I wish you had that now. His sister... His sister, one more year of AHS, Mr. Nelson, a box of new wires, Mr. Perkins, a bag of Doritos, Mr. McDonald, more rainy track meets, and Mr. Ferrari, a Whopper, compliments of Burger King. Amy Schulenberg leaves wishing good luck to Becky Leslie in the class of 1996 and 1997, missing her friends and all the good times, no missing classes or track practice, and thanking my parents and ready to tackle the world.
Sheila Symington leaves Heather one computer disk that doesn't work, Candy a new alarm clock, Jen good luck in getting her license, Corey good luck in cheerleading, and the sophomore class a fun 2 years with Mr. Casey. Scott Smith leaves his sister Corey a 4-pack, Randy Stange leaves Tina physically but not mentally, Mr. Chasen someone else to ask questions, Greg no senior privileges and 7 classes a day, and Mr. Semprini a bloody lawnmower. Becky Stimson leaves Jen, Jay, and Wendy a large bottle of SoCo and the formula for David's, and Kiki an ice maker, and Lynn one last blind flop. Raina Swan leaves Mrs. Genevieve a young, tall, dark, and handsome man, and J.W. and friends with their immature sophomore attitudes.
Chris Tatro leaves Mr. Strong his temper, John a cup of green coffee and an albatross, Tony a squirt gun and no witnesses, Paul a passing grade in physics, Mr. Sullivan a 26-page research paper, Mr. Semprini a copy of Semprini Rap, Amy D someone else to drive crazy, Nathan a pentagram, Brian a Hearn, and a pair of hourglass eyes, Jim Hunter all the lime jello he can eat. Daryl Temple leaves still wondering how Jake got the toothpaste out of his ears. Renee Thompson leaves LJV, someone else to spend 8 periods a week with Big Bo, to sing Mr. Deegan in Who Can Teach a A&P class, Mrs. Coburn, 2 left hands, memories both good and bad, and Mr. Navin, the patience and strength to wait for Abby. Paul Vescovi leaves Mr. Gracious 2 pork chops and a rifle, his sister 4 long years at AHS, and wishes Sandy the best of luck with her last years.
Michael Waslowski leaves Shannon and Becky a job with Mr. Harris with no end, Commander Russell someone else to run into in Maine, and a lonesome lunch table to sit for Becky, Shannon, Tara, Mike, and Kelly. Jamie Watts leaves with many great memories of the past 4 years, her brother Eric with 2 more years, and her sister Jody with 4 years at AHS. Jennifer Wilhite leaves Sherry Fahey $1,000 for the enlargement she desperately needs. Her brother Mike, 2 more years with Lana Banana. K.C. Burke, $500 for the phone bill. And Christy Geyer, plenty more good times at Riceville and an everlasting friendship. Kim Williams leaves Mrs. Coburn a training tape on the proper way to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Pandisio, someone else to have his briefcase accidentally hit. Jen J. Wheeler, her bubblegum ruler. Her sister, lots of luck with Sean for many years to come. And Tamp, a dime. Julie Wright leaves Tim and Ralphie many gruesome years at AHS. Ben, a wonderful Valentine's Day. Peaches and Sheep's Rock. AHS wondering what couples were on the list, and with many happy memories of Mrs. T in the Accounting 1 class.
I'd like to introduce at this time, again, the president of the class, Derek Segan, and the vice president, John Akluki, who will offer the class prophecy.
In 10 years, Lisa Elliott will be married to John Green, still wearing Barbie doll clothes and modeling outfits for Barbie's dream world.
In 10 years, Mike Arell will have had 100 knee operations and 2 bionic knee transplants, still partying on Fatal Friday, happily married to Jonna, then divorced, then married again.
Stephanie Batchelor will be happy married with 2 kids, a home, a business, and she will be driving her 33rd car with a personalized invitation to work for Kimball Cook Insurance Company.
In 10 years, Todd Batchelor will be in the State Police Department and playing softball for the Police League.
Eric Banks will be getting paid a lot to do very little involving diesel machine injury. He will still be bothering Mrs. Elliott, who will have completely white hair because she'd rather look like a snowball than a crayon.
In 10 years, Marty Barkham will be still partying with the family. He will have a fleet of Corvettes and will never be married.
J.C. Barrett will be in Australia living on a ranch, watching kangaroos with no one to bother him except for a skinny girl.
In 10 years, Paul Batutis will start his own pizza house called Tootie's House of Pizza.
Mike Beagle will be working as a stunt driver, driving cars off bridges.
In 10 years, Donna Bazzaio will be married with 2 children, a boy and a girl, living happily and fulfilled in Florida.
Tammy Bishop will be hosting ABC Wild World of Sports, living in her dream house that overlooks the ocean and driving her choice of cars.
In 10 years, Susan Black will be living in St. Tropez with her 3rd best-selling novel and caring for her 2 children.
Mike Blanchard will be a regional sales manager of a large corporation, own a maroon Dodge Dart, have a limp, and will be thinking about the days of playing cards and losing because of daily doubles.
In 10 years, Tammy Blanchard will be 6 foot 8 inches. Part owner of Blanchard & Blanchard's accounting firm, coaching the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and packing for the Bahamas reunion.
Trent Blanchard will be part owner of Blanchard & Blanchard accounting firm, Boston, and starting successful career in show business.
In 10 years, Jeff Boudreau will return to Nassau to join the Club Med Topless Beach on Paradise Island. and take occasional cruises on the Mardi Gras to visit with his old pals, Bennis and Oscar.
Maria Boudreau will have traveled around the world and will own her own hotel in Maine.
Shannon Bautel will still be double dating with Kim and Dan, have her own CPA firm, and planning to attend the class reunion in the Bahamas.
Denise Bren will be returning in 10 years to the Bahamas reunion, and she will still be wondering where Julie is at the parties.
In 10 years, Kim Brooks will be a very successful prosecuting attorney, taking time off to call up Jen and Amy to lifeguard and bomb around the lake in the tank, still be double dating with Scott and Shannon, and cruising to the Bahamas for the reunion.
James Brown will take a break from his incredible, organized, extremely happy life of world travel to meet all of his friends at the Class of '88 reunion in the Bahamas.
Cheryl Case will be sitting in her law firm office wondering where in Africa Paula is, where's Chubby Checker, why Padoni is Tyrone, and be attending the Class of '88 reunion in the Bahamas.
Jen Chi will be working for the U.S. government as an ambassador to Russia, striving for world peace.
In 10 years, Holly Charquette will be married with 2 kids, teaching in a nursery school, and will be happy as much as can be.
Mary Clark will be married with 3 kids and own her own daycare center.
In 10 years, Kelly Clifford will be God knows where, probably married and planning to attend our 10th year class reunion in the Bahamas. In 10 years, John Akluki will still be living in a cave, fighting with Mike and Sumo, hopefully married and living happily ever after with Mike, and planning the Class of '88 reunion in the Bahamas.
Mike Costa will be a multimillionaire owning Anheuser-Busch, Inc. In 10 years, Derek Segan will have changed his name to Guido Franchi, while speaking fluent Italian, and be captain of the cruise ship Mardi Gras with Francisco Booger Boudreaux as his purser.
In 10 years, Pam Dooley will be living in Jamaica, happily married with 2 children, soaking up the sun, being a cosmetologist, and doing all those weird Jamaican hairdos.
Amy Dowdy will be living in the United Kingdom writing her bestsellers.
In 10 years, Jerry Duguay will still have his teeth growing, wishing that he was still on the boat heading towards the Bahamas. He will be attending SLU, sitting in a recliner chair, waiting for the Dallas Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl.
Nikki Fumati will be happily married to Jamie, own 4 cars, 2 houses, 2 kids to do all the housework.
Celia Florin will be traveling to many places, wondering where everyone else is.
Chris Fowler will be in Washington, D.C., working for Pentagon as one of the chiefs of staff, wondering whether all the rest of the class is successful and waiting for the 10th reunion to come.
In 10 years, Kim Frazier will be living in Florida, married to Doug, have 2 kids, and will still have a wedge.
Kevin Garinas will have 1 little baby girl and will own auto body shop.
Emily Gates will be married, have 2 kids, and own Victory Supermarkets.
Denise Gerard will be happily married, living in Vermont with 2 kids.
Renee Giroux will be working in videos with Aretha Franklin and cruising in a pink 1957 Caddy with Respect.
Eric G.A. Greenwald will be the first Englishman in the White House garbage collection.
Lori Gilmet will have a tail down to her knees.
Jim Hamlet will be somewhere in Lebanon with the United States Marine Corps.
In 10 years, Arthur Hatch will be the craziest shrink in New York City.
Scott Hill will be a full-time dealer at John North's Club Med Casino, watching the parties of Red Sea every day with his gambling buddy Booger.
Lee Human will be happily married to Nikki, residing in sunny California while owning 2 major engineering companies, 2 beautiful houses, 2 yachts, 2 Ferraris, 1 red, 1 blue, 2 Siberian Huskies, and will have had 2 children.
Jim Hunter will be resting in a secluded cabin in the woods, wondering if he should accept the Nobel Prize and wondering if he should sell his plans to the government for the first manned space flight to the next solar system just to make them stop hounding him. Or he will be a college professor in a big university, enlightening thousands of students until Chris calls him to remind him of the class reunion in the Bahamas, where he will do the limbo and yell, "Hey, man, squid pro quo."
Colleen Jackson will be successful in business with a certain carpenter, also attending the 10-year reunion of the Bahama Party crew.
Eric Jesenowski will be a Coast Guard as a senior officer and will be writing a few books.
Jennifer Jones will be with Christy Lewis and Marshall Agassi, still celebrating the graduating class of '88. She will be married to a Marine and be a state trooper in Jamaica.
Paula Bree will still be jamming with Lace, rapping with Ace, and hailing with Brace, missing senior privileges with Lace, Ace, Brace, Cleve, Bass, and Jermaine Sears, eating lunch at Dick and Jane's Bar and Grill.
In 10 years, Scott LaChance will be a golf pro doing Pennzoil commercials. Still going through a pack of gum a day every day, and his genes will finally have become spliced together with that of a common housefly.
Tim LaRoche will be a guest VJ on MTV, living in California, giving Eddie Van Halen guitar lessons.
Marshall Agassi will still be celebrating the class of 1988 in the Delta 88 with Christy and Jen.
Christy Lewis will be celebrating graduation with Marshall Agassi and Jen Jones.
Kevin Lincoln will be a multimillionaire drawing the new album covers for Iron Maiden, going to McDonald's to watch Scott do The Fly, be appearing on America's Most Wanted list for tax evasion and still at large, fleeing across the country in the big green LTD.
Joe Losh will be doing the same thing he's doing now.
Lisa Mabey will be happily married to Jerry and have 2 kids.
Kiki McDonald will be happily married to a wealthy horse trainer living in a large ranch in Kentucky and wondering where the god's name is Beth and what is Paula wearing.
Beth Meyer will own her own preschool and will be working towards a master's degree.
Lance Mallett will be working for the state police, cruising Athol Boulevard in his 1998 Ferrari Testarossa.
10 years, Bill Malloy will be going crazy.
Lisa Matthews will be living in New York, starring in a Broadway show and married to the producer.
Lisa McCarthy will be married to someone special and driving her to her 10th reunion in a white Porsche 944.
Lynn Matevia will still be trying to think of something to put in the class prophecy.
Kirsten Miller will be running a successful business and enjoying life to the fullest. She will also be in the Bahamas for our 10th reunion.
Dan Muzzy will own a fleet of monster trucks and still be partying in the woods.
Heather Nelson will be a professional Bostonian driving a real car and making travel arrangements for her reunion in the Bahamas.
In 10 years, Nathan Nazarella will have graduated from medical school, discovered the cure for cancer, won the Nobel Prize for Medicine, Science, and Literature, and will be lying on a small private beach in Tahiti, surrounded by beautiful women and a small team of experts working on new ways to be nice to him.
In 10 years, John North will invite the class of '88 to his Club Med Topos Beach in the sunny Caribbean, where they will have their class reunion bash.
Erin O'Connor will still be contemplating the dress code at Athol High School and have her own line of fashion dresses made from trash bags.
Scott Peterson will be having a great time living at the beach in the summer and on the slopes in the winter.
Lisa Polano will be living somewhere expensive with someone special, selling and repossessing Porsches, driving a royal blue 959 Roadster Porsche, racing Paul Newman, test driving for Motor Trend magazine, receiving a car salesman for the Century Award, visiting Paula and Randy in Nova Scotia until their houses burned down, visiting Shannon at S&S from 9 to 5.
Melanie Porter will be happily married to Rainey, with Jen and Jason visiting Ashley all the time, still trying to figure out what's wrong with the fire arrow.
Paula Plinsky will be bald, wearing a sheet, wandering around airport selling roses, incense with her husband, Yusfa, trying to show Mother Superior, Amy Putnam, the only true way of life.
10 years, Amy Putnam will be pad owner of the Chicago Bears, will have Richie as her star running back, Paula Perlinsky as the team hairdresser, and will be pad owner of a nationwide chain of convents on the off-season.
In 10 years, Wanda Rathburn will be partying it up aboard the Mardi Gras.
In 10 years, Bob Ray will be living in Auburndale.
Ed Rickard will be either lying on the beaches of Florida, soaking up the sun, wondering where he's been for the last 10 years, or will be lost in some foreign land as a soldier of fortune.
Mark Richardson will still be in the Marines training new recruits, but will come home so he and Kevin can win the 35th River Rat race.
Bob Rydell will finally make it to the Bahamas.
Brian Roberts will either be in an asylum or controlling the world.
Greg Robichaud will be a top lieutenant in the Nuclear Engineering Department of the Navy, be a wealthy bachelor of 28, live in one of his houses on the ocean, drive any one of his cars of the ocean of his choice, and shock everyone that remembers little Greg Robichaud at the reunion.
Christy Sabin will be fighting with John to use the car, will be going into and out of relationships, and be working as a psychiatric ward, probably in Vermont.
Dana P. Sandover will be rescuing POWs in Laos. He will still be asking Shannon if he can go out with the guys on the weekend.
Eric Sarwin will be chasing helicopters in the sticks and be the owner of Aubuchon Hardware Company.
Randy Schmidt will be living with Paula in Nova Scotia until a fire destroys everything, except for the cow.
Carol Seco plans to own more Corvettes than Bill Putnam and live a happy life as far away from Royalston as possible.
Keith Shackett will be living in the Bahamas, will own a fleet of blue Toyota MRs, with black tinted windows.
Shannon Shadis will be a CPA, planning to attend the 10th class reunion in the Bahamas, and will probably still be fighting with Dana.
Charles Shemshuk will be making lots of money, have a new Porsche, will travel the world in his spare time, and will have a house in Hawaii.
Amy Schulenberg will call Ambassador Jen Chi from her corporate executive office overlooking the skyline of Boston and say, "Jen, where's the reunion?" "In the Bahamas. Hey, Mon."
Scott Smith will be making money as a high-class business executive and have the best tan in California.
Randy Stans will be out of the service, will have graduated from college for something, and will own the fastest motorcycle of the year 1998.
Becky Stimson will be living in Boston, married with no children.
Raina Swan will be a successful shrink in a large city down south looking forward to the 10th year reunion in the Bahamas.
Chris Tatro will either own his own progressive trash radio station in Boston or be locked up in a padded room in Arkham Asylum.
Daryl Temple will be working at Mars trying to make enough money to restore the green olive.
Renee Thompson will be married to an Italian businessman living in the suburbs and practicing chiropractic if her own business, with help from Abby, spending her free time taking road trips and canoeing with Kim, looking forward to the 10th reunion in Nassau. All the while, she'll still be driving the Blue Streak and saving money for her ideal Italian import.
Paul Vescovi will be back in the Bahamas with the Elite Six in Charlie, maybe picking daisies and recovering from whiplash.
Mike Wazlowski will be rafting in Amazon with 5 gorgeous women.
Jamie Watts will be happily married with 2 kids and planning a reunion in the Bahamas.
Jen Wilhite will be with Sarah Whips and Julie Pickard in Bridgewater picking up men at the hottest place in town.
Kim Williams will be married, living who knows where, doing who knows what, but still camping and canoeing with Renee Thompson, wondering what everyone's going to wear to the class reunion.
Julie Wright will still be lying about how tall she really is, having nightmares about Mr. Ronco's class and remembering Sheep's Rock.
At this point, we have various awards and recognitions of the seniors. I will first introduce to you the department head in the area of careers, Mr. John Linker.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. This year's awards, and I'm very pleased to announce them for you, and the Business Department Award goes to Shannon Shadis. In the industrial technology area and home economics area, Marshall Agassi.
I would like to offer my congratulations to the class of '88. The Humanities Department Award is given to that student who achieves the highest scholastic average cumulative over the 4 years in the area of English. This year, the award goes to Christopher Tatro.
There were 2 students this year who continue their interest in the art beyond what the curriculum has offered. Each, with their own style and strengths, have made plans to pursue their education in art beyond high school. As a symbol of this achievement, I would like to ask Aaron O'Connor and Lori Gilmet to please come forward.
This year's Math Science Department Award for Outstanding Achievement goes to Christopher Tatro.
This year's Music Departmental Award goes to a student who played baritone saxophone in our concert band and our stage band for 4 years, someone who also participated in stage band as well, fine musician, leader, Christopher Fowler.
On behalf of the PE department, I want to wish all the seniors the best. This year's award for outstanding achievement presented to a young lady who was an outstanding gym leader and student in physical education. It's Renee Thompson.
The Social Studies Award goes to the student in the senior class with the highest scholastic achievement. Now, we've done something different this year from past years to recognize the fact that sometimes students will only take the minimum number of courses, so we've adjusted for the fact that the award is based upon number of courses as well as average. And the award this year goes to Miss Jennifer Chi.
Each year, we give a foreign language award to the student in the 4th or 5th level of the language who has achieved the highest average, and this year it goes to Amy Dowdy.
This year's Bausch and Lomb Award for Outstanding Achievement in Science goes to Amy Dowdy.
The Athol Teachers Association sponsors the Armstrong Memorial Award, and it is given to a student who achieves excellence in writing a research paper during the senior year. This year, we are fortunate to have 2 winners. Please come up, Susan Black and Christopher Tatro.
First of all, I would like to congratulate the graduates of the class of 1988. And before giving out the gold and silver awards, I would like to recognize the faculty's nomination for the National Honor Pequog Award, which is for outstanding character, leadership, service, and academics. The recipient this year was Miss Amy Dowdy. Would also like to recognize the officers of the National Honor Society for 1987-88. They have set a pattern, and the pattern is being challenged as well as picked up by the 1988-89 officers who are very hard at work already. If the following people would please step forward. President James Hunter, Vice President Kim Brooks, Secretary Shannon Bautel, and Treasurer Jennifer Chi. Regarding the gold and silver awards, there's always confusion, total confusion, not only on your parts, but on our parts as well. First of all, gold and silver is not associated with the national honor. Gold and silver is academic achievement beyond national honor. Gold is recognition of 90 or better for the entire year. Silver is recognition of 80 or better for an entire year. As the following names are called, we would appreciate it if people would please step forward. For 4 years, the following people have achieved an 80 or better in every single subject. Ms. Shannon Bautel, Ms. Kimberly Brooks, Ms. Amy Dowdy, Mr. James Hunter, Ms. Elizabeth Meyer, Ms. Shannon Shadis, Ms. Amy Schulenberg, Mr. Christopher Chatro. The following people have received an 80 or better for the past 2 years, or excuse me, 3 years. We'll be receiving silver pins. Ms. Susan Black and Ms. Jennifer Chase. Following people have received an 80 or better and will receive a silver letter. This is for 2 years. Ms. Jennifer Chi, Ms. Lynn Matevia. Following are silver certificates, which is 80 or better for an entire year. The recipients this year are Tammy Bishop, Trent Blanchard, James Brown, Eric Greenwell, Eric Jesnowski, Stephen Price, and Greg Robichaud.
Congratulations to you seniors. On behalf of the faculty, you've made this a nicer place to work, and from the underclassmen, you've made this a better place to graduate from. Thank you. Congratulate you. Twice a year, the Student Council sponsors a brunch for the Golden Agers Club of Athol, and in their generous gesture, they give us a scholarship to be awarded each year. This year, it goes to a young lady who is going to pursue an education and a service to others in nursing, Miss Abby Shaw. Student Council initiated an award in honor of Richard Smith, our former principal. It goes to juniors to encourage the exploration and begin the process of looking into further education. This award is given to help people fill college applications and make visits to campuses. This was a real interest of Mr. Smith's to allow people to begin this process early. And this year, we are giving 2 awards, Carrie Beeland and Lisa Huram. The John Calvi Citizenship Award is an award of long standing. It is in honor of a man who was student council advisor for 25 years as well as assistant principal for many years, a man who was very dedicated to the school. The criteria for this award is dependability, service, loyalty to the school, and commendable behavior. And those words describe Trent Blanchard.
Four-year completion certificates to Cadet Mike Wazlowski and Lisa Holt. Also, Mike received the Daniel H. Watson Memorial Scholarship Grant last night at an awards ceremony. Three-year completion certificates to Cadet Eric Jesnowski, Lisa Matthews, and Greg Robichaud. 2-year completion certificates to Cadet Eric Jesenowski and Holly Choquette. And a 1-year completion certificate to Cadet Joe Losh. Also, primarily for the benefit of the underclassmen, I'll be presenting a scholarship Sunday at graduation to Greg Robichaud for 4 years at WPI, based solely on his performance as a cadet while here at the high school. Last but not at all least, I leave with you graduating seniors the traditional sailor's farewell toast. I wish you blue skies, fair winds, following seas, and may the good Lord take a liking to you. Thank you.
The Presidential Academic Fitness Awards, excuse me, are from the White House in Washington, and I'd like to read this letter to you. I am pleased to honor the winners of the Presidential Academic Fitness Awards for 1988, the 5th year of our program, to recognize outstanding scholastic achievement among America's young people. The 3 million young men and women who have received this award exemplify those attributes that make for better students and better citizens. Your success paints a bright picture for our country's future, and you're a fine example of what can be accomplished through hard work, dedication, development of the mind and will, by lasting inspiration to your fellow students. You, your parents, and your teachers should take pride in the standard of excellence you've set. I want you all to know that I am proud of you as well. Nancy and I send our best wishes now and for the future. God bless you, Ronald Reagan. The criteria for the Academic Fitness Awards are an 85 average throughout the high school years. You must score at the 80th percentile in nationally standardized tests such as the College Boards. You must take at least 12 courses in what are called the new basics, that is in English, mathematics, social studies, science, foreign language, and computer science. I'm going to announce these names, and I would ask that they would come up in front of the podium, stand facing the audience, and stay there until I present the certificates. The following are recipients of the President's Academic Fitness Awards: Amy Dowdy, Christopher Tatro, Shannon Shadis, James Hunter, Susan Black, Kimberly Brooks, Amy Schulenberg, Shannon Bautel, Lynn Mativia, Gregory Robichaud, Jennifer Chase, Elizabeth Mayer, Derek Segan, Jennifer Chi, Shirley Wright. There is a second category of these academic awards, and I'd like to read that. It's in recognition of extraordinary effort to achieve academic excellence and to meet the goals of the Presidential Academic Fitness Award program. And that goes to Trent Blanchard. Would you also come forward? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the recipients of the President's National Academic Fitness Program Awards.
I have the pleasure of doing the next and the remaining awards and recognitions we rely very heavily on student help throughout the building to recognize those who have helped us significantly in the main office, the seniors receiving certificates for serving as office aides, Holly Charquette and Abby Shaw. The Daughters of the American Revolution sponsor a Good Citizenship Certificate. It's through demonstration during the entire course of their high school career, demonstration of the qualities of dependability, leadership, service, and patriotism. The DAR Good Citizenship Award goes to Jonna D. Kluke. I worked very hard with Mr. Russell to impress on students the importance of attendance. We work very hard sometimes just to get students to put in 5 consecutive days in a full week. So it's unusual, very unusual, since we only have one winner who has had perfect attendance for 4 years. I don't know whether this person ever gets sick or what, but he's been here for 4 years, and I think it's an extraordinary award and shows a great deal of commitment. I'd like to introduce Christopher Fowler. I would like to ask that these 4 young ladies stand and be recognized where they are. They are being recognized as honorary Athol Women's Club members. Those 4 girls are Amy Dunlap, Carrie Beeland, Elizabeth Pickard, and Lisa Hurram. Thank you. The Worcester Telegram and Gazette sponsors an award for outstanding student achievement. The winner of this award this year is Amy Dowdy. The Smith College Club of Franklin County, a group of local Smith College alumni, has sought the nomination of a high school junior whose academic work reflects strong intellectual curiosity and independent thought, whose extracurricular involvement shows the potential for leadership and a concern for others, and whose personal qualities exemplify self-discipline and a sense of purpose. It is with great pleasure that we present the Smith College Book Award today to Amy Dunlap in recognition of her accomplishments. The award, given by virtue of rank in class to the salutatorian, this year goes to Christopher Tatro. Again, by virtue of the rank in class, this year's valedictorian, Amy Dowdy. I would like to introduce at this time the editor of this year's yearbook, Ms. Heather Nelson.
Okay, due to the revival of the tradition of a spring yearbook, I'm able to share a copy of it with you today. The 1988 yearbook is dedicated to a man who, although unable to attend today's ceremonies, meant a lot to us during the 3 years that we knew him as principal of Athol High School, Dr. Richard Smith. I'd like to read the following passage from the book, which tells the full story.
During the 12 and a half years as principal, Mr. Smith put effort and enthusiasm into making Athol High School one of the best high schools in Massachusetts. In a time of need, he gave our school a sense of direction and stability by installing a feeling of pride and discipline, upgrading curriculum and demonstrating honesty and integrity when dealing with the student body and faculty. Contact with students was an important part of Mr. Smith's philosophy. He always asked students to do nothing more than he would do to make the school run smoothly. By asking students to take responsibility, he made them realize the importance of a good, sound high school education. He cared about every aspect of Athol High School. No matter what the event or the activity taking place, he was always there, giving a sense of security to everyone. Mr. Smith was the principal of Athol High School for 12 and a half years, and we're damn proud of him. Now, on behalf of the entire 1988 yearbook staff, I'd like to present our new principal, Mr. Tom Casey, with his own copy. And we wish him luck and with the continued success.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Assistant Principal, Mr. Charles F. Russell. Mr. Russell.
I'd call to say I love you. I just thought I'd call to say I care. And if you think I love you or I care, you're absolutely wrong. You want me to sing it again? You couldn't hear it. Amy, what did you leave me? Well, I'm here to collect it. At class today, I am asked to say a few words, good things about the members of the class graduating. Once you reach 30, you have to go to different kind of classes. Good things I have here on this list. Do you know what I have here? Absolutely nothing. I called your parents, your mothers, called 18 parents, find out what I could say, something good. They had nothing good to say about you at all. Matter of fact, I had a number of them call and say, if you let my kid graduate, I'll kill you. I remember when you were a freshman, sitting over there with, turn around, look at those people over there. Aren't they funny looking, huh? They're 14, 15 years. I remember when you were a freshman, you were skinny and scrawny and you're gawky. And now you're still gawky. Everyone has congratulated you. A lot of people have asked you to applaud. What I'd like to have you do now, not you people, what I'd like to have you all do is stand up and applaud these 1988. Stand up. Do you know why I did that? They didn't want to applaud they wanted to stand up and stretch their legs. And I think it only fitting that you people right here, I would never. I think you should give them a round of applause that they so rightly deserve. Do you know what I'm talking about? I think you should stand up. I would also like to mention you really marched in here very well. You did a nice job. You did very well. It normally takes 3 days, 1 hour a day. This class we started last February. That's how long we've been practicing that. In my formal goodbye to a class, I normally kiss the president of the class goodbye. But if Derek Segan thinks I'm going to kiss him, no way. Matter of fact, Derek knew that, and he spoke to me this morning, and he said, "Don't you dare." Need to talk to you freshmen over here. You've only been with us a year. And if you do all of the right things, all of the good things, do all of your homework, stay with us, keep at it, keep doing that hard work, you can grow up to be just like them. Now, isn't that discouraging? But on a serious note, my wish for you is that you stay healthy, that you do well, and you leave the world a little bit better than you found it. And you keep dreaming, and you keep believing, and you keep a rainbow in your heart.
James Brown, Erin O'Connor will now please read these senior superlatives.
Here's the best list for the class of 1988.
Eyes, Robert Ray and Kim Eklund.
Hair, Tim LaRoche and Paula Prolinsky.
Smile, Jerry Duguay and Kirsten Miller.
Laugh, Jerry Duguay and Colleen Jackson.
Body, Marty Barkham and Jamie Watts.
Dimples, Paul Vescovi and Denise Aldrich.
Nose, Nathan Nazarella and Shannon Shadis.
Legs, Walter Woods and Kim Brooks.
Dress, James Brown.
And Aaron O'Connor.
Dancer, Mike Orell and Pam Dooley.
Athlete, Randy Stange and Amy Dowdy.
Personality, the class of 1988.
Driver, Mike Begar and Heather Nelson.
Friends, the class of 1988.
And couple, Nick Flamati and Jamie Watts.
Do you want me to read the title of that, or?
And here's the class of 1988 alphabet.
Artistic, James Brown.
And Aaron O'Connor.
Bashful, Robert Rydell and Mary Clark.
Cuddly, Trent Blanchard and Tammy Blanchard.
Daring Kevin Linker and Amy Putnam.
Energetic, Randy Stange and Sheila Symington.
Flirt, Mike Vigo and Denise Aldridge.
Gullible, J.C. Barrett and Kirsten Miller.
Happy, Jerry Duguay and Beth Meyer.
Irresistible, Jeff Boudreau and Jen Chi.
Jealous, Nick Flamati and Shannon Shadis.
Kind, Trent Blanchard and Jen Chase.
Lazy, Danny Muzzy and Denise Brend.
Most likely to succeed, Jim Hunter and Amy Dowdy.
Never on time, Dana Sandover and Julie Picard.
Offbeat, Joe Losh and Holly Shawkat.
Perfectly Human and Sue Black.
Questionable, Derek Segan and Jonna Kluke.
Rebellious, Robert Ray and Michelle Burnett.
Sexy, Lance Mallet and Raina Swan.
Cheese, Mike Orell and Amy Schillingberg.
Unique, Arthur Hatch and Paula Perlinsky.
Vivacious. Vivacious, Randy Schmidt and Sheila Symington.
Woody, Scott LaChance and Amy Putnam.
Extraordinary, Derek Segan and Renee Thompson.
Yummy, Daryl Temple and Shannon Bowtel.
Zany, Arthur Hatch and Lisa Polana. I have one more thing I'd like to say on behalf of the class of 1988. We'd like to wish James Brown a happy birthday.
I guess we're to the class gift portion of the program today. Our class gift is by far the best class gift I've seen since we've been here. I have yet to see the water fountains on the athletic fields from the class of '86, among other things, but we have a really classy class gift. Is it in yet? It's being put in at this time, I guess. It's a nice rough granite sign with a smooth granite surface with the Athol, it says Athol High School, with the insignia on it, the Indian, and it's being placed perpendicular to the entrance.
Athol High School Class Day and graduation are special times for me. You see, 22 years ago, I received my diploma in this very gym, and today my own daughter is seated amongst you. Class of 1988, look at the people seated next to you. You have spent the past 12 years with some of them. You are each about to begin your own individual lives as young and responsible adults. You'll make mistakes, but learn from them. Make the most of each and every day, and whatever your dreams may be, reach for them all.
Remembering times of days gone past as memories fade and tend not to last. We only hope when all is said and done, times remembered will not just be of fun, but rather days of difficult states when all seemed awry. As this is how we learn to live and understand the questions why.
So as time travels on and we remember when, looking at old photographs every now and then, please try to keep one idea in mind. We truly wish you all the happiness you'll find.
And before we leave, we'd like to read a short poem, and we'd like you to reflect upon it, if you would. Called The Tree Cutter. The tree cutter was a man not big, not tall, who was found cutting trees that seemed quite small. This cutting continued and trees to fall, except for those considered ever so tall. I watched and said nothing at all. As cutting continued and trees to fall, I questioned the man, how tall is tall? The answer he replied was strength is the best. A good quality, I agreed, but I felt some unrest.
So on he continued to chop skinny and small, the weak and the tiny, but not those that were tall. Noticing some which were beautiful and yet quite small, this quality didn't seem to matter. No, not at all. Others which bent with the wind and the fall were quickly cut down and soon were to fall. It now should become clear to us all, more and more trees were considered quite small. As each that is cut makes fewer look tall, I did not understand this, no, not at all. I stood watching, saying nothing at all. I finally questioned this man, how tall must a tree be to be axed till it falls? The reply firmly stated, the ones which are small.
Cutting of trees continued through fall. Noticing he missed a tree quite small, I watched and said nothing at all. Soon the winds of the great strength in the fall began breaking limbs and tall trees to fall. The tree which was bending was one of the small, and by the end of the day, when the night were to fall, this tree was the only one to stand so proud and so tall. And by now, as you know, these are not trees at all, but the qualities we should seek in each and all. As strength, power, and might are not all, only the qualities of the great and the tall, but love, honor, sensitivity, forgiveness, and knowledge seem all to play a most significant role in the proud and the tall. Consider this poem when your choices you make, as it may change the direction of the road you should take.
Before we wind down to the final phase of our Class Day ceremony, part of what goes with my position is the opportunity to leave what I hope is a message, and I want to give it today rather than Sunday, just because of the appropriateness of it being still here in the building and having the benefit of the rest of the school perhaps listen. This is my first graduating class of Athol High School. This is your last year. This is my first year. I hope we've shared a lot. I said that to you this morning. If nothing else I can share with you, I hope part of it has been a philosophy, though it's been one that perhaps we've maybe confronted each other with at times. It's a philosophy of one of a great strength that I have and a great ability I have, I think, to work with young people, and I say that very humbly, but at the same time, it's a great love for working with young kids, and I will do that for the rest of my life. So as my first graduating class, if you would just bear with me and allow me that which goes with the job. Growing up today is very confusing. You grow up as very young people with everyone telling you to get lost. And all of a sudden, you find yourself here as seniors and high school students, and everyone's telling you all of a sudden to find yourself. And it's something that's very difficult and confusing. Something as I look around the world today that quite frankly bothers me is the inability of people to get along with one another. And I want to ask you, and may I say that getting along with others is a personal goal that you must strive for. I hope you have learned in these 12 years to make yourself agreeable. I hope you have developed your manners so that people will like to be with you. If your environment is not all you want it to be, start looking at yourself first. How about your relationships with those in your immediate family? The other day, a student in the office indicated to me that he was not going to be staying home for the summer because he could not get along with his dad. It's a shame. Out of his home should come the love that will help him bear the slings and the arrows of some of the outrageous fortune that we are going to face. It has been said that greater than any other gift that Henry Clay possessed was his talent for companionship. People liked to be with him. Straight from the shoulder, I ask you, have you found out who you really are? Do you have any dreams? We've heard that mentioned today by a number of people. Do you have any ideals? One of my students told me once that it was an example of her grandmother that kept spurring her on. Has there been a person, a book, an event that has stirred you deeply? I hope so. If not, it will happen. When you call on yourself, is there anybody home? I like the title of Althea Gibson's book. It was entitled, I Wanted to Be Somebody. That would make a fitting motto for every member of this class and every other class. We all need the pull of an ideal. As you studied history, and it happens to be something that I enjoy, I have been very impressed with the compassion of an Abraham Lincoln, the energy of a Theodore Roosevelt, the intelligence of a Woodrow Wilson, and the devotion of a John Foster Dulles. Dulles, at the age of 7, dreamed of being Secretary of State. Daniel Webster's father took home with him from a county fair a silk handkerchief with the Constitution printed on it. What an omen. Daniel Webster earned the title of Defender of the Constitution. No man has a greater battle than the conquest of himself, to liberate his own God-given talent. Today you are an educated, partially educated personality. I say partially because really there is so much more to be learned. You're on your way to full blossoming. Your parents and friends may think they know who's sitting here, but it will take some years to discover who you really are. Did one teacher in high school know at the time that a Winston Churchill or a Dr. Salk or an Anne Wang or a Robert Frost or a General Eisenhower sat before them, what would unfold before them? No. Who knows who's sitting here this morning? Really? Who knows the potential of this class and each member of the class? You have a challenge. Be courageous and pursue your dream. Please. Thank you. Stephanie Batchelder composed and wrote the class song entitled, We'll Always Be Friends.
Before I begin, I'd just like to thank everybody for the support that they gave me through writing this song. It's very short, very simple. I guess that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Today we tell a story told many times before. We carry on tradition, and so will many more. It all seems so strange. Why so many tears? Behind the face of courage, there are so many fears. Drifting through each day.
13 years ago, Dick Smith came here as the principal of Athol High School. He read at ClassDay from Ecclesiastes. I would like to continue that tradition. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. Young women and young men, it's time for you to leave.
I wish you blue skies, fair winds, following seas, and may the good Lord take a liking to you. Thank you.
My wish for you is that you stay healthy, that you do well, and you leave the world a little bit better than you found it. And you keep dreaming, and you keep believing, and you keep a rainbow. Keep a rainbow in your heart.
You'll make mistakes, but learn from them. Make the most of each and every day, and whatever your dreams may be, reach for them all.
Who knows who's sitting here this morning? Really, who knows the potential of this class and each member of the class? You have a challenge. Be courageous and pursue your dream. Please.
Young women and young men, it's time for you to leave.